Well, welcome to our viewers in Nigeria and across the world. Lunchtime Politics begins right now. Court orders the DSS to charge suspended CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele to court within 1 week or release him, says the DSS must operate within the law. The Labour Party presidential candidate, Mr. Peter Obi, compares the security situation in Nigeria with the war in Russia and Ukraine as he asks governments to end poverty and youth unemployment. And the president's promise to cushion the effect of subsidy removal and the request for a 500 billion naira loan tops discussions in the polity. Plus, he's also made a request to the House of Representatives for the $800 million World Bank loan. We'll begin with our top story at the National Assembly, where the service chiefs will be screened today during plenary at the Senate. In fact, the Senate is already in top gear as it has suspended its rules to allow the service chiefs enter into the chamber. The service chiefs are Major General C.G. Musa, who's the Chief of Defense Staff in acting capacity, Major General T.A. Lagbaja, the Chief of Army Staff in acting capacity, as well as Rear Admiral E.A. Ogala, the Acting Chief of Naval Staff, and Air Vice Marshal H.B. Abubakar, the Acting Chief of Air Staff, as well as DIG Kayode Egbetokun, the Acting Inspector General of Police, plus Major General E.P.A. Ondiendeye, who's the Acting Chief of Defense Intelligence. Well, President Bola Tinubu had written to the Senate, and in the letter, which was read on Monday, he requested that the upper chamber confirm the nomination of the service chiefs who have been in acting capacity since June the 19th. The Senate President, Godswill Akpabio, did not disclose when the service chiefs will be screened at that time, but indicated that the screening will be conducted during a plenary. And we can confirm to you right now that the Senate is set to screen the service chiefs, as the upper chamber has suspended its rules to allow the service chiefs enter into the chamber. We'll stay with Channels Television as we're live at the Senate to bring you the updates as they come in. Let's head over to the courts now, where Justice Hamza Muazu of the Federal High Court, in fact, the Federal Capital Territory High Court, has issued a 1-week ultimatum to the Department of State Service, that's the DSS, to either charge the detained suspended governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Mr. Godwin Emefiele, to court or set him free. The judge issued the order while delivering ruling in a fundamental human rights suit instituted against the DSS and others by Mr. Emefiele. The judge said he hasn't shown that his arrest and investigation is unlawful, but noted, however, that it is within his right to get fair hearing. Justice Muazu further stated that the suspended CBN governor cannot remain in detention without a formal charge, adding that the DSS can't use a period of his detention to search for evidence against him. But Justice Muazu held that the DSS has power to carry out its constitutional duties of making arrests, detain, and ensuring prevention of internal crime, but said that such duties must be carried out within the law. Mr. Emefiele had sued the Attorney General of the Federation, the Director General of DSS, seeking enforcement of his fundamental human rights of freedom, freedom of movement and dignity to human life. In the suit, he had applied that his arrest and detention since June the 10th without valid order of court be voided and set aside. He also demanded a compensation of 5 million naira as exemplary damages for his alleged unlawful detention. Well, let's talk about the economy now. As the economic impact of fuel subsidy removal bites on, President Bola Tinubu is urging the nation to be patient while promising that his government will come up with palliatives to assuage their sufferings. Well, he was speaking during a meeting with his colleagues who were governors from 1999, also known as the class of 1999 in the presidential villa.
It is a rekindling of memories as the class of 1999 governors converge on the council chamber for what is a first meeting with one of their own, now Nigeria's president. The president, Bola Tinubu, receives his colleagues gladly.
All of you, it's good to see you again. And for nothing to come back, I say I'm lucky.
They were the first set of state chief executives upon the nation's return to democratic governance after a 16-year military interregnum. The president makes explicit his quest for a change as he promises subsidy palliatives.
Please help tell the people to be a little patient. The palliative is coming. I'm doing the arithmetic. I don't want people to be cash transfers to fall into wrong hands. So please, help persuade them to be a little patient. I know it preaches. I know it is difficult. But at the end of the day, we are going to all rejoice in the prosperity of this country. May God bless you.
Suing for peace in the country, the president sends former governor of Plateau to his people.
Things are getting gradually better. And I will appeal to Daddy to please send a message back home to Plateau. The peace, that kind of peace that you have then, you desire now. We will do everything possible to stabilize the country. We have no reason whatsoever clean ourselves. For what?
After over an hour behind closed doors, the chairman of the group and former governor of Edo State, Mr. Lucky Igbinedion, told State House correspondents that a number of issues such as unemployment and insecurity were also central.
We came to assure him that he has our full support and prayers for the bold steps he has started to take, for his initiatives, and also let him know that this is beyond party politics. We are not talking about the project Nigeria. Therefore, all hands must be on deck to give Mr. President the needed support and encouragement to foster a better country.
Now, this visit by the class of 1999 governors, totaling 26 out of 36 of them during the period in question, is clearly fundamental for the group, who also congratulate the president over his emergence as the ECOWAS chairman. Now, many of them who were members of the opposition party have now crystallized support for the president going forward. Separately, President Tinubu met with the President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, who is accompanied by other members of the Senate. Other visitors to the President's office today include Governor Babagana Zulum of Borno State and Dapo Abiodun of Ogun State. From the Presidential Villa, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
And in line with the president's promise to address the impact of fuel subsidy removal, he has written to the House of Representatives seeking an amendment to the 2022 Supplementary Appropriation Act. This is to allow the government source 500 billion naira for that purpose to be sourced from the 2022 Supplementary Appropriation Act of 819.5 billion naira. The Speaker of the House of Representatives, Honorable Tajuddin Abbas, read the letter during plenary on yesterday. And today, the president also wrote to the House of Representatives regarding the $800 million loan request of the Buhari administration for the Social Safety Net program. The president is asking for approval of the House to secure the loan. According to the letter, 8,000 naira a month will be transferred to 12 million poor households for 6 months. It says this is for credibility and that the transfers will be made digitally. Again, the president has written to the House of Representatives regarding the $800 million loan request of the Buhari administration for the Social Safety Net program, and is asking for the approval of the House to secure that loan. Well, let's now bring you more updates from the developing story, which is coming from the Senate, where the Senate is now set to screen the service chiefs who were appointed by President Tinubu just about a month ago. Our correspondent Linda Akibe reports that the service chiefs are now inside the Senate chamber, and the service chiefs are to briefly introduce themselves before lawmakers. And we understand that the Chief of Defense Staff is first to speak, as he says that the armed forces is working tirelessly to safeguard the country. He adds that the armed forces under his watch will continue to serve Nigerians dutifully, while asking the Senate to confirm his appointment. And next up now is the Chief of Army Staff, who has taken the podium. We're bringing you live updates from the Senate, where the senators are screening the service chiefs who were appointed by President Bola Tinubu with the aim of confirming them. We'll bring you more updates as they come in. Well, staying with security, this time the Labour Party presidential candidate in the 2023 elections, Mr. Peter Obi, has described the state of security in some parts of the country as worrisome. Well, in a series of tweets on his social media handle, Mr. Obi said, "The rising insecurity in the country leading to mindless bloodletting, particularly in the north-central zone of the country, and the continued disruption of business and social activities in the southeast are all becoming very worrisome." While comparing the deaths as a result of insecurity in Nigeria to the casualties from the Russia-Ukraine war, he added that security agencies should take necessary steps and quick steps to arrest the ugly incident, because the country cannot just be spilling the blood of innocent citizens. We as a people, through our various governments, should up our value for human lives. He adds, therefore, I would like to urge critical stakeholders in these areas, traditional Christian and Muslim leaders, to continue pushing for peace among their people in the way and manner they conduct themselves. He ended by asking governments to address poverty and youth unemployment to tackle insecurity. Meanwhile, the senator representing Anambra South in the National Assembly, Senator Ifeanyi, has been speaking on the resolve of leaders from the region to end the illegal sit-at-home order, which he says has harmed economic activities in the region. But this includes the setup of a new security approach in some areas, which involves the use of CCTVs and walkie-talkies to escalate security incidents for quick response. He was a guest on our breakfast program, Sunrise Daily.
Our state has been doing a lot for security. The governor has been doing quite a lot for security in my state, but it's not enough. And you can never have enough of security, even America. Today, you still have random shootings in schools in America and all part of the world. So you never have enough of security anywhere in the world. You can only add to what is in place. So for me, in Anambra State, I think my coming on board is, to add to what the governor or the government of Anambra State is doing, and then we are working in partnership with the governor. Him being the chief security officer, and I being the senator representing my little constituency. I felt that there's some missing link. He has the state apparatus, the security network of the state, and I wanted to complement it by giving a little support to already existent vigilante groups in my constituency. But we are working with the vigilante group from just one local government so that we can test the pilot scheme, which the governor gladly approved, and then he came to support the launch of it. And then we are using that as a template, that if it works well, we can now move to other local government with the permission of the governor.
Well, let's now bring you more on our lead story concerning the palliatives to cushion the effect of subsidy removal. The president has written for 5 billion naira loan, and we just understand this morning the request for the $800 million loan, which started with the Buhari administration. The letter has also been written to the House of Representatives. So let's get a sense of what this might be about and the possibilities, how this should be done. We're joined by Mr. Marcel Okeke, as a former chief economist at Zenith Bank Group, joins us virtually this afternoon. It's good to see you again, Mr. Okeke. Thank you for joining us on Lunchtime Politics.
Thank you for having me today.
Right. I mean, I know this is something you followed really for quite some time now. With this latest development, 500 billion naira loan for palliative in the 2023 supplementary budget, that is, and then now the $800 million looks like the president is going ahead with it. He's since written to the House of Reps today, and that letter has been read before plenary. But the question for a lot of Nigerians is how this would work. He gave some details in this that, well, 8,000 naira a month will be transferred to 12 million poor households for 6 months. Now, that is for the $800 million from the World Bank. But for this 500 billion naira, what are your immediate thoughts about the implementation particularly?
Thank you for this question. It's a big question, really, because this kind of move is not new in Nigeria. When we talk about palliative, it hardly solves any problem because it's a palliative. You know, if you break down the word palliative, it's a medical term, you know, which deals with symptom of an ailment rather than the ailment itself. So this time we are talking about palliative, you know, for economic hardship, you know, caused by petrol subsidy removal and merger of exchange rates and so many other policies. But like you have said, how is this going to be implemented? You know, the 12,000 or 8,000 per month per person you mentioned is what is called an economics transfer payment. In other words, you are giving people money for which they have not worked. It's likely to have inflationary impact on the economy. And the level of inflation in the economy is already at a hyper level. It's a runaway inflation at close to 23%. You know, so the money you bring, the more you bring in this kind of money that is not backed up by productivity, the more inflation is likely to go up, and the more the purchasing power of the economic agents, you know, is eaten up, is weakened. You understand? So everybody will be negatively affected, you know. And when you look at it, if you give somebody 8,000 in a month in this country today, what is it worth? What is it worth? In fact, I don't know the right word to use. When you use it to describe improving the person's well-being, 8,000 naira per month. And how do you select these people is a question. How do you select the people to give? Some of us are familiar with what happened during the COVID. And this word was everywhere, palliative, palliative. At the end of the day, you find out that not much was achieved. Instead, the corruption that is deep-seated in the system further enriched some people, you know, and further impoverished those who, you know, the palliatives were actually meant for. So this time around, we don't know what is going to be achieved. It's likely to be a repeat of what we have always gone through. You know, some people who are rich are likely to be made richer, you know, when such huge amount of billions, you know, are mapped out for this kind of program. If I have to suggest, I would have told the government to address the cost, you know, of the subsidy in the first place, which is talking about refinery in Nigeria. Let them repair the refineries in this country. Let them license modular refineries construction, and let there be so many of them. So once we have all this in place here in Nigeria, nobody will be talking about subsidy again. Let whatever is saved, you know, from the subsidy removal be deployed to essential critical infrastructure construction. So when you have these things working, you know, the well-being and welfare of the people will be properly taken care of. If we have railway that is working very well, if you have the roads are at a good condition, if you deployed it into security matter, to have better security in this country. All these things will work out together to improve the well-being of the people. You know, if you thought about how to get people employed, give them employment, rather than giving them, you know, fish, as the palliative implies, we are going nowhere with palliative. I don't believe in it.
Well,
but
let me just follow up.
I have to say what I'm saying.
Right. It's important to have these ideas out there so we can really brainstorm and come up with the very best solution. I mean, Nigeria belongs to us all. But going by what the president said yesterday, that he doesn't want the money to get into the wrong hands, a lot of people might want to hold on to that. And of course, it reminds us of what happened in the past. So let's do the math. 500 billion naira on the one hand. The World Bank loaned $800 million. That's about 56 billion naira, thereabouts, going by the prevailing exchange rate. That's 550-something billion naira for palliatives. You believe that this should not be handed to people. Some say, well, what options do they have? These people are poor anyway. Some of them live below $2 or what have you on a daily basis. So for them, it is way better than nothing. But let's wind down on this point, Mr. Okeke. What would you be telling?
I want to agree with you. That's better than nothing.
Yeah,
but
just a moment.
Has always been the human factor.
Just a moment. Let me ask you this question, because you talked about the refineries. So you say the government should fix refineries instead. Is that really a guarantee that the price of petrol will be back to, what, 180 or even less, so that people can know what to expect as well?
Once again, thank you for this question. What we have always had, and which persists, is human problem. Is human problem. It's the people that, you know, implement these policies you are talking about. We had big four refineries in this country that were working until the human factor we are talking about came in, and people ran them aground for whatever reason. I don't know whatever reason it is, but those 4 refineries, one in Kaduna, you know, 2 in Port Harcourt, you know, and 1 elsewhere, were all run down and grounded. That is why we are talking about this fuel subsidy removal and palliative today. If not so, some of us are not too young to know in this economy that there was a time we had enough, you know, petroleum refined here in this Nigeria, within Nigeria. We were not importing. So all of a sudden, those refineries were run aground, and we are now depend almost 100% on importation. So it's something that can be done, you know. But my challenge is that when you come to this kind of thing, are you going to bring angels to come and do them? Because
well, that's a big question. Really interesting question there, honestly. But I wish we had more time on this conversation. But we have to wind down now because of our time. Always interested in speaking with you on economic matters, Mr. Okeke. Perhaps we'll do this again. Mr. Marcel Okeke is a political economist, former chief economist at Zenith Bank Group. Thank you so much for your time. We're switching to another conversation, which is closely related to this one, and it's the battle to rid the nation of oil theft. Well, it continues with the operatives of the Nigerian Navy destroying an illegal oil refining site in the creeks of River State. The operation, which was led by the commander of the Nigerian Navy ship Pathfinder, involved both gunboats and helicopter navigating areas where artisanal refiners operate. And this illegal site is operated within the purview of NNPC Limited's Oil Mining Lease 18, that's OML 18 site. So let's give you some more insight on this one. We'll try to get you some more insight on that particular one. But let's bring you some more updates. It's a big story coming from the Nigerian Senate, where the senators are currently screening the service chiefs who were appointed by President Tinubu just some weeks ago. And our correspondent, Linda Akigbe, is reporting that the Chief of Army Staff, who's in acting capacity at this point, has taken the podium. First was the Chief of Defense Staff. Now, the Chief of Army Staff has been speaking on what Nigeria has gone through, which he describes as challenging security situations. And he says if he's confirmed by the Senate, he shall do his best to justify the confidence. And now the Chief of Naval Staff has taken this stand. We'll keep giving you updates from that exercise. So let's bring you more insights now into the oil situation, the illegal oil refining site that was destroyed, and the general conversation around ensuring increased oil production in Nigeria. Mr. Chukwuemeka Osuji is an oil and gas lawyer. He's a partner, oil and gas, Olaniwo Ajayi. He joins us from Surrey in England. Thank you for joining us. I remember the last time we spoke, we were talking about subsidy removal, how this is impacting Nigeria, but closely related to that is oil theft, illegal oil bunkering, 2 discoveries and destructions in quick succession. But we're not short of these sort of operations. As a lawyer, can you tell us how hard is it to prosecute oil thieves, illegal bunkers, and the rest, such that we don't keep having a repeat of this?
Oh, well, thank you very much. And happy to be here once again. Pretty much in terms of prosecution, it's not radically different from what you would see for any other crime of that severity. Really, it's really about once the prosecution team can get the right evidence together. And I dare imagine that between the secrecy agencies, the Navy, etc., they're able to put that together, they could easily be prosecuted. I think the greater concern really is identifying them when they start and then nipping them in the bud. I mean, just catching them in the act. That's really where we need to increase enforcement. Once they can be picked up, it's quite easy to prosecute them. And of course, ease of prosecution will then deter all the people who might be having such ideas and sort of discourage them from trying to do that.
But what we hear is that these people are arrested. We see these raids. As I said, we're not short of them, but they're eventually released and they're back into operation. But I'd like you to speak to the question around summarily destroying the sites or vessels, as the case may be. Apart from the environmental concerns, it also raises questions on the role of law. So people say, without a court order, why do this? Doesn't this amount to destruction of evidence, even, messing the case up before it's taken to court?
Yes, and that point has always come up. I'm not sure why the hastiness in quickly destroying the facilities or the vessels that are used for these crimes. One would think that the police or the Navy would detain them for a while and then take a view. But also sometimes it's difficult to second-guess operations in the field, sitting from an armchair. So, and I know a couple of those areas are pretty much in swamps that are unaccessible. So if, for example, you decide that you want to keep them there, then that means you need to maintain adequate security over either the facilities or the vessels for a period. And so sometimes it's difficult. One has to be a bit careful when you try to second guess what drove the security forces to rather destroy rather than to keep them. But you're absolutely right. The scene of a crime should be maintained as pristine as possible, as it was when you discover the infraction. So that really is the best case scenario. The point I'm just making is that it might then there might be security issues, there might be logistical issues, or infrastructure issues that makes it difficult for the police to sort of leave those there, and then they'll think it's best to destroy them. But again, there's also the environmental issues. We are hoping those are not laden with either white or dirty products, in which event, if you destroy them, what happens to those products? So I think it's something that I think keep an eye on, because I think for us, we would rather that, they are not destroyed, at least not immediately.
I'd like to thank you so much for your quick intervention. As always, Chukwuemeka Osuji is an oil and gas lawyer, a partner, oil and gas. Olaniwo Ajayi joins us from England. Thank you so much for your time on the program.
Thank you very much.
Well, let's bring you this one. Final note, speakers of state houses of assembly are currently holding an induction ceremony for newly elected and re-elected speakers. Present at the ongoing event are 25 newly elected speakers and 10 re-elected speakers from states across the country. And the Lagos speaker, Mudashiru Basai, is conspicuously absent at this induction. Also present are the governor of Delta State, Sheriff Obora Wari, as well as representatives from diplomatic community. Well, that's the program for this afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us. We're still bringing you live updates from the Senate, where the service chiefs are being screened. So stay with Channels Television. I'm Kaido Fikulu. Goodbye.